Hi, everybody. Welcome to our new week, new us. I'd like to first start by saying my sincere apologies to all of you. The news we heard on Friday that we weren't going back, I'll be honest with you, was a little bittersweet. I kind of knew that was going to happen in my gut, but when you hear it for real, it just seemed odd. I've, in 26 years, never had closure like this at the end of the year because, frankly, we didn't have any closure. Um, I don't, I don't know what to say. I'm not going to try to sugarcoat it and say, "Oh, hey, life moves on." Dot dot dot. And I just kind of have an empty, weird feeling inside of me. Don't be surprised if I see you in the grocery store, if I see you out in public, that I scream, I smile from here to the Mississippi River, I jump up and down and do cartwheels, spit out some chocolate from my mouth. It's just, I'm yearning and longing to see your voices, hear you, and especially in person. So, with that being said, let's move forward. I wanted to give you the answers to page 5 and 6 from your review. So I'm going to bring up that particular screen and that particular, I want you guys to see the PowerPoint that I created last night for you. So here we go. So it was, again, a very lengthy, we've got another very lengthy prompt. Don't be surprised if they throw this stuff at you. It just is frustrating for those of us who don't read quickly, for those of us who, have to decipher through a lot of different information. When I read this for the very first time a couple years ago, um, I guess it was more than a couple years ago, but anyway, I what I did was I highlighted or underlined or circled words that popped out to me that I knew that were going to mean something down the road or potentially could mean something down the road. And so, like, anytime they say the word relationship right away, okay, so relationship, what does relationship mean? We know the only thing that can say there's a relationship is correlation. I've taught you that, I've drilled that in your brain, so I circled that. I was also a little bit taken when I read the high school principal required everyone to participate from our knowledge of ethics. That seems a little sketchy to me. I also thought it was a little sketchy when I read how Dr. Franklin only analyzed the very first 100 forms that were brought back to her. I thought that didn't seem like great science to me. And then finally, the last word that really stood out to me was she concluded that stress causes physical illness. Okay, so we are saying one causes the other. Red flag, red flag, red flag. Can't say that unless it's an experiment, remember? Okay, so then what I do, like last time, is I take a piece of paper and I kind of just scratch out, okay, what are some of the important things from that very long paragraph to help me make sense? What are they testing? Well, they're testing the relationship between stress and physical illness. Those are the two things. And again, because they said relationship, I knew right away we're talking correlation. My sample size was 250. What did they have to do? They had to complete a form to rate how stressed out they were in the last 6 months. To me, that seems a bit subjective, but we'll go with it. And then what she did, as I mentioned, she analyzed the first 100 that completed it. Um, then, in addition to that, a second piece is she analyzed the attendance records, days absent, and that's it. And knowing as a teacher and as a student, I'm sure you're well aware of, there's a heck of a lot more reasons why people are absent. It's not just because you're sick. And it could be a mental sickness, it could be a doctor appointment, it could be, heck, I just want to take the day off, sister. Um, and then what she concluded is stress increases and it causes physical illness. Alert, one thing that causes, that can use this term, there's only one uno thing that can use that term, and that's experiment only. We already know this is not an experiment by some of the terminology she was using. So a lot of things that we're asking you to do, I like to highlight or underline or circle some of the important parts of the question that stand out to me. Research method, they want to know. Here in red, when I wrote these, so in black, it was the question as stated, and then I wrote, all right, if you're looking at describe operational definitions of two key variables, you have to ask yourself, what is she comparing? What are the two variables she's comparing? And then again, you have to ask yourself, the test has measured what it's supposed to measure when we talk about validity. So those are just some points that I put down to help myself answer those questions a little bit better. So the first question, identify the research method used by Dr. Franklin. This is a great opportunity for us to actually just quickly review what those research methods are. And so I put them in blue here. You need to be able to identify them. You can probably guarantee they're going to give you something on this board that I have written down. Something here might more than likely will come up. So descriptive research, if they use that term, that's divided into three areas. It's either a case study, a survey, or a naturalistic observation. The thing that those three things have in common, and you should note this, is all three of these things will identify behavior and describe behavior. If it's correlational research, it's going to determine a relationship. It's going to only predict, and it's never going to give you a cause and effect. And then an experiment, it's going to be manipulated by the researcher. This is a review from last week. So it's really, you can see how they hammer this all the time. A nice pattern, so to speak. So we could be good scientists trying to predict what are they going to actually give us on this AP exam. I'd say something from this board for sure. So an experimental research is manipulated by the researcher. You also have random assignment, and it will give you cause and effect. So what was the method used? So what's our answer then? Identify the research method used by Dr. Franklin. You could have used two things. You only needed to state one, but you could have said it was a survey, or you could have said it's a correlational study. Second question, describe the operational definitions of the two key variables that she used in the study. Again, ask yourself, what is she comparing? She's comparing stress and illness. So your answer, you had to have two answers for this one to score correctly. Stress, your answer needed to state the severity rating, like the questionnaire, or just how severe they feel like their stress was that month. You could not just say stress. You had to say, how did they measure the stress? And they measured it right here. You can see me very stressed out here. Illness. Your answer needed to state something about the number of days absent, and they were measuring that by the attendance records. So however you phrase that, as long as you have that in there, you're good to go. And you can see me being sick. Third question. Based on the information provided, describe one appropriate, one inappropriate ethical feature of the study. This is the second time we have seen ethics since I started reviewing with you guys. So I put this back up again. Again, I would memorize these if I were you. Know the ethical guidelines for human research. The list is right here in the red. The one that applied to this particular study was they debriefed. So your only answer is the appropriate solution that was provided was they debriefed to the participants. What was something unethical that they did? Well, any of these three would score. So you guys check your answers. You could have said they didn't get the participants permission to look at the records. They just did them on their own. So like they totally illegally went into the attendance records and say, I want to see the attendance records for Callie Smith and how many days absent has this girl been absent. You know, they can't do that. So that's inappropriate. Or you could have said they forced people to participate right here. Or you could have said they only debriefed the 100 out of the 250, so they didn't even debrief everybody. However you went about that, you just needed to say one of those things. For the next question, it states as follows. Identify one statistical technique that Franklin could use to represent the relationship anytime we want to show relationship between variables, you have to use the word correlational coefficient, or you're going to calculate the correlation, or you simply could have said the statistical technique I would use is a scatter plot, because that's how you show a correlational coefficient. At this point, it's a really great opportunity for us to stop the essay for just a second, and let's take a look at that review from correlational coefficient. They like this word. They like to sometimes put this on there. So I would suggest this is something definitely you want to remember and know. So we reviewed this in class, but it's a good time to review this again. So these are scatter plots, all three of these. Scatter plots are just points, dots that represent the points on the data points. So R is how you would actually state the actual correlational coefficient number. So if you ever see a prompt that says R equals something, you know they're talking about correlational coefficient number. So this has a correlational coefficient of positive 0.4. This one has a correlational coefficient of 0. And this one has a correlational coefficient of negative 0.4. Remember, the highest possible correlational, or the strongest possible correlational coefficient number you can get to is 1.0, and that means negative 1.0 or positive 1.0. Negative does not mean weak, it just means the direction that the relationship is going. It could be a very strong negative correlation, so just recall that. So I've been giving you a few examples. A, the more one studies, as this goes up here, the more your GPA could potentially increase. For B, the more one studies, the faster your hair grows. There's absolutely no correlation at all to that. Or C, this last one, the more you study as this increase, the less time you have to party. So that's going to go down. But notice this correlation here, negative 0.4 and positive 0.4, have the same value points. One is not stronger than the other. They're equally as strong. If this said negative 0.8, the negative would be stronger. Correlation coefficient is definitely something to review. And the last question, sorry about that, me flipping around. Describe two aspects of the research design that weakens the validity. And what's validity? It's the test is being measured what it's supposed to measure, of Dr. Franklin's conclusion that stress causes physical illness. You could have 5 answers here. Any of these 5 would work. You could say her research is weakened because she only took the first 100 out of 250. Her research is weakened because her operational definitions are quite weak. You could be absent because of other reasons. Like I said, the kid could be playing hooky, could be just going to a concert, going to a college visit. Miss Horner, I just needed a suntan and break today. And so there's a lot of reasons why kids are absent. It doesn't mean they're actually ill. The third reason you could have stated that weakens the validity of this research is she actually told the participants about the research, therefore she's biasing the results. The fourth thing you could have said is this research is not valid because correlation does not equal causation. Dun, 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 dun. Never, ever, 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 ever can anybody ever say that. So if you get a prompt that says that, there's red flags all over the place. Or you could have said the fact that she only allowed girls in her study. That's not a very wide spectrum, and she's not getting a wide variety of people to actually represent her research. So any of these 5 would work. You guys check your own work on that one. And then the last 2, you had to actually do the multiple choice. I asked you to do that, and somebody brought up last week, hey, Ms. Horner, should we still do the multiple choice even if we're not taking a multiple choice test? Personally, I believe yes, because all the multiple choice questions I'm giving you have to deal with vocabulary of the research methods. And so to answer this multiple choice correctly, you have to know your vocab. So this is just a different way to actually apply your vocabulary knowledge. So in a normal distribution of test scores, the percentage of scores that fall at or below the mean is, and the answer for question 56 is C. And what I did was I thought this is a good opportunity for us to quickly review the normal distribution curve. Remember, if it's normal distribution, it's asymmetrical, it's symmetrical, excuse me, on both sides, meaning each side of the graph has equal amounts. Remember, I told you should probably memorize 34%. 34% are one standard deviation above and one standard deviation below. That's 68%. From two standard deviations above and two standard deviations below, we have 14% on each side. And three standard deviations up, three standard deviations below, you have 2% on each side. So I would like to explain this question a little bit more in depth. I'm sorry if I sound very simplistic. This might be appealing to those of you who never took stats or really kind of struggle with that math mindset. Actually, that's on the next slide. Sorry about that. Okay, so this last question, the mean will be higher than the median in any distribution that, and the correct answer is positively skewed, C. And so I put that little tiger tail down there because I want you to remember the whole tail situation on skewed means something, and it's really important. So a couple words here just to quick review. They're talking about the mean and the median. Those are measures of central tendency if they use those words. Mean is your average, median is the middle, and the mode is the most frequent score. Something that you probably learned in second grade. All right, so it's asking about, the answer is it's positively skewed. What does skewed mean? It means biased, it means distorted, it means to change directions. So let's take a look at skewed distributions. So here's a normal distribution. Remember, I told you sides are equal on each side of the 50th percentile. So everything is symmetrical. But then when we take a look at skewed distributions, our hump is more to one side, and it could either be to the left or it could be to the right. So again, our normal distribution, equal distribution on each side. The mean, median, and mode is straight up the middle. But what happens when it's negatively and positively skewed? So let's take a quick look at the example here. First of all, highlighted and capitalized, I wanted to really stress to you all, make sure you remember this point. The direction of the tail is going to tell you if it's positive or negative. The number one mistake I see students making is they think it's the direction of the big hump, and it's not. It's the direction of the tail. So remember, if this is a normal distribution curve, positive's going over here, negative is going over here. So the direction of my tail is going in the positive direction. So that means this is positively skewed. The direction of my tail is facing over here to the negative side. Then you would state that's negatively skewed. So let me give you an example. If you have a data set of 10 data points, and here are the numbers 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 5, 8, 12, 17. If I add up all of those, that's 52 points divided by 10. That makes my mean of 5.2. My median, which if you can recall from is your middle score, and it's the question, the mean will be higher than the median, and a distribution that is, the median is 2.5. So if you take a look at how I explained it down here, 7 out of the 10 data points are less than 5.2 mean. So that's the 5, the 8, I'm sorry, that's the 5, the 3, the 2, the 2, the 1, the 1, the 1. They're all less than that 5.2 mean. Therefore, the majority of the scores, where the majority of that hump is going to be, cause the biggest part of the hump to move to the left, because the majority of our scores are going to be over here. So when that happens, you have skewed distribution, and that tail is coming off to the right. So that means it's positively skewed. And look at what happens to our mean, median, and mode. It shifts, because if the 2.5 is here, the 5.2 is here, we've now shifted our numbers. So it's something to think about, and it's definitely something that you want to go over. That's the reason why I didn't go over research methods that first week, because I knew we were going to hit all of these terms from that particular um, unit each week throughout. And I just think it's a great review. I appreciate those of you who are checking in and watching me ramble on. I apologize. And I will see you all Thursday. I hope you can make it. Please, like always, if you have any personal questions you want me to ask, either about your homework, to check and answer, please feel free to email me. I would definitely be able to do that. I could even set up a private Zoom conference call with you if you would prefer to do something more face to face. It's always nice to hear your voice as well as see you. So take care. Have a great day today, and I'll see you guys on Thursday.